Welcome to Emotional Support Siblings, the podcast where sibling therapy is free, boundaries are questionable, and the group chat should probably be subpoenaed. My name is Luke, and this is my emotional support sister, Sarah.
Hi, yes. Me and my little brother Luke here are going to be getting together every week and talk about family chaos, hot takes, and whatever emotional damage built our personalities to what they are today. Uh, so on that note, yeah, let's get into it. Week one.
Yes,
How
exciting
you feeling, little
things.
brother? Yeah.
Exciting things. Week one, talk about it, be about it. We're being about it. I am looking forward to this. Little fluttery in my stomach, of course, but I'm excited that we're here and doing the thing.
Yeah, I feel like I've talked to a lot of people about our family dynamics, and people are like, you should really be on a TV show, you know?
Yeah.
I'm like, well, I don't know if we could get everybody to sign off on that, but me and Luke can expose them.
Oh, let's roll it. Yeah.
uh, oh
Th-
man. Well, yeah. Why? How come now? We made it out of the playbook. We committed.
Yeah. It's one of those things I think where uh I don't know, I was taught to deflate the ego, and I think with doing something like this there has to be a little bit of ego involved. So I think, I
Mhm.
can't speak for you, but I think that's kind of made me feel at least like we shouldn't, because, it's, of course we want a following and all these things, but these last couple weeks of talking about it and bringing it into light and fruition, and especially the conversations we've had on the phone these last few weeks, I'm just like, bro, people, I like every time I get off the phone with you, I'm just like spiritual as fuck, like I'm ready to go, whether it be because we talked about God or family or mental health or all these obstacles and the growth that we've had. I don't remember the last time we've ended a phone call on a bad note. I was like, dude, people need to hear this shit right here. For
So
real.
they can all get spiritual as fuck too.
Yeah, exactly. Get some spirituality in your life. Get some spirituality up in your life. We will
Uh,
provide that.
yeah, I agree with you. I think we're both like in a, you're right about the ego. I guess that's something that I've considered as well. Number one, because the internet can be real mean. And there's a little bit of fear in that. Number one. Number two, I also feel like, I don't know, more than anything, I hope that we are able to like bring some people to a better place in their life, whether that be through a little bit of humor or semblance that we're in this together, that there's light at the end of the tunnel on the other side, you know? I
Yeah.
guess what do you what do you hope that people hear in our story? Like what do you hope for the following or an audience?
I'm I was talking to a buddy actually about it this morning. Before, I'm talking to him. It's our first episode. I'm getting excited, nervous, all the things, and he asked me, and I want it to be such a wide variety of an audience, because
Mm,
like everybody goes through shit. I mean, it's as simple as that. Like, I mean, I had friends growing up that I felt like had the silver spoon, in their mouth, and they had it so much easier. And then like I hear or see things on Facebook and I'm like, he's fucking crazier than we are. So my experience is my experience. The I want this to reach as many people because we can relate on most any level. I know I can, I know you can, because I talk to you about all the shit all the time. Um my audience is a bunch of people that don't fit in, but fit in, just in any category, mental health, addiction, sobriety, all the things in life that can just, take a punch, my whole goal is to say, like, we can all take a punch and get back up.
Yeah, I
I
feel
f
like we can outreach to a lot of people because I feel like you have a lot of deep experiences that way. I'm kinda bringing in, motherhood of lots of little kids that are crazy. So I feel like, we both, there's a lot of
physical
people.
health on your end, physical health,
Yeah,
the amount of things that
chronic
you've
illness.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And just,
Yeah,
our audience is if you had it, we might not have had it, but we can relate, I promise.
on on some level, we can hear you. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, I don't know. You said that about the silver spoon, and then you said about people being crazy, and I was like, well, they weren't being fed with a silver spoon. Maybe if it was, made of mercury or heavy metal or lead,
Yeah, yeah. Hey, join the
those
audience, brother.
exposures.
Join the audience. Even the
Mm.
burnt spoon people, come on, we're here.
Ah! Well, yeah, I mean, I can appreciate that. I haven't been there, but a lot of the stuff that you walked in it's been heavy shit, little brother.
Yeah. Yeah. We both, and it's not, and that's, a lot of that is adult, but it stems from a childhood. It stems from a family dynamic. It stems from the things that we learned and went through growing up and what was normal, what we thought was normal, what shouldn't have been normal. Um, and we're going to touch a lot on that being brother, sister, you know, seeing the same things um, and not
Taken
seeing the same
totally
things. Yeah.
Yeah, and taken totally different paths in life that have been all over the place. I mean, what I was thinking about today too is, like, the hesitation about talking about this publicly.
Mm,
You know what I mean? I think I really had some moments today where I was like, "Man, I think some people are not gonna like what we have to say."
yeah.
But I also think that you and I have kind of discussed this as like a larger topic. And I think the end all be all is authenticity. And we want to bring an audience for growth and betterment. And that through those dark things, those hard things that we have made our own choices on and have experienced that things were not our choices, especially when we were kids that, putting in the work, you get to the other side.
Yeah. Yeah. You get a light at the end of the tunnel kind of result. But ultimately, it doesn't matter whether you were born with a silver spoon and had everything fed to you, or if you were, born in the slums. And not saying that it's not harder for some people, but I, uh, I do think that ultimately it comes down to the work that each individual is willing to put in. And I've seen you do it, and I love it. It's inspired me to do it. Um, and I love that, and I hope that the light that you have shined upon me and others, and the light that I shine upon others, and hopefully we can just get that, broaden that horizon. Let's show Sarah and Luke to the world.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, well, I mean, I guess we gotta take it back to where it all began, right? So, I mean, when we think
Mm-mm-mm.
about, how we grew up, with some difficult things, we had family with some mental illness. We had addiction issues in our family. We lost a lot of family to a lot of addiction growing up. Uh, I guess, you know, when you think about stuff that we saw when we were younger, I think that people don't really realize what's abnormal until they grow up and see what normal actually looks like. So I think that we were just kind of like living in it and kind of thinking that, you don't know any better when
Right.
you don't have exposure. And I think that like our family, like a lot of families, they kept the door closed. We didn't, you know, uh, spread out very often into other lives to kind of see a different aspect or what we did see. even from, like, neighbors and stuff, I don't really think I think it was just, like, a negative portrayal on other people's choices, but I guess, when you think about who you were and what life was like when we were younger, um, what role in our family do you feel like you played?
Um, the baby. I was
Oh,
babied for sure. Uh, youngest of 3, of course, we do have another, sibling, emotional support sibling, and, but yeah, I definitely feel like I was the baby of our family. I was babied, from the beginning. I remember if I cried, you and, our brother got in trouble. It didn't matter. It
mhm.
doesn't matter if I was crying wolf or not. I definitely had that advantage. Um, but yeah, I think as a I don't know if that's necessarily a role or what, but I definitely that's how I remember myself, during our childhood. Um, and from a young age, I learned how to utilize that, you know? Um, when it comes to roles in the family, how would you classify yourself being in the middle? Um, what would you consider your role? Would you, s- you know, golden child status? Because you were always on the straight and narrow. As
Mm.
long as I can ever remember. Um, which is what I would think is a good thing. I mean, how do you feel about that?
Yeah, I mean, being a middle child and being the only girl, um, I think that that put you have a lot of dynamics there, that's for sure. There was just it always felt like an expectation, but also kind of being sandwiched between, the baby where, everybody really wanted to take care of you, and then the oldest child who always got to do everything first and you know, and plus me and our older brother are really close in age, we're only about 17 months apart. So there was always like this, we were back to back doing everything all the time. So it felt hard a little bit because it always felt like a pressure for a competition. And it wasn't honestly until adulthood that my eyes really opened like, who am I in competition with?
Right.
The only person I want to be competing with is myself.
Mm,
And as long as I'm competing against yesterday's Sarah and getting better today, like that's the goal ultimately. But it took me a long time to get there. But as far as like a role
bars.
goes, what?
I said bars.
But yeah, for role wise, I would say definitely golden child. I think I saw a lot of trouble with you know, older sibling, and I wanted to go the complete other direction. So I was like, whatever I can do to be the right thing at the right time and just show up and be the best. Like that's my goal, So I know
Mm,
I was always afraid of like breaking any rules or doing the wrong thing. And it was already hard with the emotional um or, mental illnesses in our family. I always kind of felt like walking on eggshells
sure.
anyways. So, yeah, I
Did
mean, it was tough.
did that did that role of being the golden child, did that I know you said that, like, you learn later in life that, you should only be in competition with yourself, which I completely agree with, but did that role ever make you feel superior? Did that and does it in today's world? Does it make you
Oh,
feel, or did it make you feel better than, or that you like, that was the need was to be better than?
oh, if I was in therapy, easily I'm looking over at my therapist and I'm like, yes. But it's hard to admit that, to myself and publicly. But if I'm going to be honest and authentic, like, of course, there's that mentality like, at least I'm not as bad off as so and so. You know what I mean? But like, that's a really warped perspective of our life because
Sure.
ultimately, again, like, it comes down to, like, if you really burn it all away, we're all on the same level, you know what I mean? We all have our shortcomings, we're all sinners, we're all on the same level. Same, same playing field, like, what my failures look like are different than yours, and, yeah, it took a long time for me to get to a point where I, um, I was okay, number 1, with being a failure, and stop comparing myself to other people saying that, like, "That person couldn't do XYZ, but I can, so I know that I'm okay." Like, that's just not a great place to be in your life because then I don't you're never in a position to help others, in a positive way, I guess. That's a
Yeah.
good question.
It'll keep you stuck. One of my
Yeah.
favorite quotes is comparison is the thief of joy.
Mm, it's a good one.
That
Yeah,
is a good one.
I agree. I agree. Yep, because no matter what, on the opposite end of the spectrum, even if it's not like better than, you're looking at somebody else saying like, I wish I had. And then
Sure.
no matter what, you're always in a position where you're like constantly pulled. So
Yeah. Looking
yeah.
everywhere else rather than where you should be. So,
Hmm. Yeah,
but
I think that we live in a day and age again, like I think that comes back to even that very first point of ego being on a podcast, feeling like you should share your opinion and have people listen to you. You know what I mean? But
yeah.
also at the same time, like knowing like I want to do this out of a positive manner and bring people together and make people feel good and uplifted. Uh, and it's hard to find
Yeah.
that balance.
Yeah.
Wh- When
I
you're
think oh, I'm sorry. I was just going to say I think, how divided the world is in
Mm,
today's life. It's so easy to get wrapped up in that bullshit. Uh
yeah.
I catch myself sometimes on Facebook. I'm like rooting for stuff that I didn't even know I was a fan of just because I'm seeing it. Like,
Yeah.
um, and it's crazy. I see people, I see this, I see that, whatever. I'm not, we're not getting into like the whole political shit, but just how divided everything is. I love the fact that you just made mention of service, of if I'm looking at these things and I'm distracted, then I can't be of service. I can't help somebody else or be good to somebody else if I'm looking at somebody else thinking they have it better than me or worse than me. That's just I think that's a beautiful outlook to have. It really is. I think we need a lot more of that in today's world for real.
I agree. I mean, it all comes back down to being humble and knowing that if you have more than, serving others and, um, you know, bring us together. Yeah. When you were talking about being the baby of the family though, and you have I have a question. I mean, like, I know when you were younger, from what I remember, you were a pretty emotional kid. You know, you were just an emotional guy. You
I
shed a
still
lot of
am.
tears. Uh, and I think I wonder a little bit too, like, do you feel like being like that? Do you feel like when we were growing up, maybe there was like an emotion that you weren't allowed to share or to have?
Mm. To share or to have, it's weird because I think in most people's cases, and this is me 100%, this is opinionated and projecting, but I would think the one thing that most people would be afraid to show is sadness or
Mm.
crying or tears or whatever. I think I don't know if there was any that I necessarily wasn't able to share. I think I was afraid. I don't know if I ever really had like real anger. uh, I know that
But
sounds
they say anger is a secondary emotion anyways, so that's probably pretty good, probably because you were on that deeper
Crying all the
level, which
time.
is
Yeah.
good. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Probably not angry because 'cause you're a little bitch. Um, no, I'm sorry, in all seriousness, I think, I can't really remember anything that I wasn't able to show necessarily, but I do think that, um, my tears came from a place of fear, and my, quote unquote sadness was more of a fear and scared more so than anything. And I think that's probably still the case today. Um,
Mm.
yeah, I would say that. And for my experience, I definitely was an emotional child, teenager, young adult, and as a 32-year-old adult, I would consider myself more vulnerable and emotional than most, for sure. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I've never really thought too in depth about like any emotion that I didn't show or share. I just feel like I was so stuck on one, which I would say is ultimately like fear.
I didn't think about it either, and then I went to therapy, and then my therapist was like, "You look like you wanna cry." I'm like, "Well, yeah, I wanna cry." She's like, "Why don't you just cry?" And I'm like, "I don't know. I
Am I
just
allowed?
cannot, d" and then we talked about it, and she was like, "Yeah, you never had time to cry because you were too busy, basically, taking care of everybody else all the time." So I was like, "Who has time to cry? Not me. I gotta figure this shit out. I got
That's right.
stuff to do and people to take care of because nobody can not, do it for themselves."
It is. It's a slippery kind of slope with that one because after you find yourself like getting through things and not showing those emotions, I know in my experience, like I blow up. I let the stuff build
Mm.
and I won't fight or argue over things that bother me at the time, and then another one will happen and then another one will happen, and then I'll find myself blowing up on my wife or um whatever, a family member, a friend, mostly my wife, to be honest. She probably gets the worst of it. Just it just happens to be that way. Um but it happens
People
over
closest
time.
to you.
Yeah, yeah. Or my dogs, honestly. Chipper drives me Chipper drives me nuts.
I
Um
know.
I'll start going down the rabbit hole and think of, something he did when, 6 years ago where I'm like, that son of a bitch. um but I'm guilty of letting things build because I'm supposed to fight through it. I think that derives probably from the way we were raised as children, where you know face it now and we'll cry behind closed doors kind of thing. But that probably isn't the healthiest. Isn't the healthiest. I actually had a question, something that was on my mind for you. Were there times, which kinda goes right into what we were just talking about, were there or are there times where you feel or felt that it's necessary not to show your feelings? Exactly what we were just talking about, but, does it still come up in your life today?
Yeah. I mean, mainly just because like my life is busy, and I think that I've fallen victim to that vicious cycle that we're like put into where we don't take time to listen to our bodies, let our mind rest because we fill our time with so much. Like, you fill your time with, your friends and your kids and the sporting events and work and laundry and dishes and you know what I mean? Like your amount of time in a day is just so jam-packed. Like when do you have the time to really let yourself sit with an emotion? It's very rare for me. And I think that for me, I think that that's kind of what's manifested into my chronic illness, but also, I've had to spend a lot of time sitting. Like when I go to therapy, that's one of the things that we do. Like when we sit in our emotions and we let ourselves feel it. Literally, she tells me, like, don't judge it. Don't try and correct it because my brain automatically goes, this doesn't feel good. How do I fix it? Distract myself, start a conversation, move, you know what I mean? Move your body, whatever. And she's like, no, no, no. You just have to sit and feel what you're feeling, and that is just really abnormal for me.
Yeah, it's uncomfortable. It is.
I don't like it one bit.
No.
We just talked about, like, a memory this past week, and she's like, "Where do you feel that?" I'm like, "Dude, the upper middle part of my back hurts so bad." I was like, "I think I have tech neck." And she goes, "What's do you find it and tried to fix it? Like, that's probably where you" she goes, what's your emotion right now?" I was like, "I'm angry about what we just talked about." She was like, "Then you probably feel anger in that part." And I was like, "Oh, that makes sense too."
Mm, mm. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, so I mean, like, considering, like, that part, I mean, obviously for me, my breaking point was my health issues. Do you do you think that in your through everything that you've gone through, I mean, into teenage years and adulthood, is there a defining moment that you can recall that was like your breaking point, that everything kind of just like finally came to a head and it was like enough is enough?
Um, yeah, I think I've had several, and, my kind of people with the experiences that I've had call it rock bottom. And and I've had, more rock bottoms than I could probably remember or account for, but I'd say the one that I think of, like, that first comes to my mind when you say that, that I revert back to pretty often is this comparison. Of course, as we go deeper on the show, I like to be vulnerable. I'm an open book. That's just who I am, and um, I'm in recovery. And I've been to inpatient rehab a couple times, and I remember like the first time I went there, and they call them techs, which are more or less, also people in recovery that have had substantial recovery time, and they ask you questions, and it's emotional and all these things. But this one tech asked me, he goes, "What's your plan when you leave here?" And I remember telling him I had this plan, I'm gonna do X, Y, and Z, and I'm gonna do all these things, and I'm gonna be, sober the rest of my life, and I got it all fucking figured out. And not even 2 years later, I wound back up in rehab thinking, how the hell did this happen? Again, I thought I had it all figured out. And this was that moment where I was in there hearing the same shit that I heard 2 prior years, and another tech asked me that same question. He goes, "What are you gonna do when you get out of here?" And I was like, I have no fucking clue." And it was like such a light bulb aha moment for me where um I became teachable. I didn't have it all figured out. Um and that was probably it was the most freeing feeling when I realized that's what was happening, was the fact that like I didn't have the answers. My way was not working. My way was, getting me in trouble with the law. It was ending family relations, almost my relationship with who is now my wife. Um, I had no real friends because I wasn't a real friend, but I had all those things where I thought I had it all figured out, and it was not, it was not figured out. I was a mess, and I just think back to that time, and it was just so freeing about like the fact that I don't know is a good place to be, because then you can learn something. Um, that's That's what I would consider my transitional moment, if you will, of finding a better way to live. Um,
I think that's such an interesting and such a powerful thought because I feel like in those moments of like a breaking point, you have to really admit things to yourself that you probably have never had the ability to admit them before. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah, absolutely. I was so clueless that I don't even know if at the time that's what I was trying to do, that to admit that I had a problem. Um, I just know that, like, in hindsight, thinking back to that day was was the first time that I shut my mouth and opened my ears, in a long time, and I'm so grateful I did.
Yeah. I, I'm grateful you did. I mean, I think about when we were kids, like, we were thicker than thieves, you and I. We did
That's
everything
right.
together. You know, we were even though we were, 3 years apart, I feel like we had a dynamic, we had a good relationship. I just felt like our personalities meshed really well, and I think that's really it says something, that we had hard things and, we had to kind of take different paths for the choices that we were making into teenage years and adulthood, but how cool it is to see you, come full circle and live, really live in recovery the way that you have and just come full circle as a man, I mean, and as my brother. Because, I mean, you can talk to people about the stuff, me and my husband talk about it all the time. Like, I can tell him anything that I, had seen growing up and stuff, but like he didn't live it, but we lived it.
Right.
And I'm so thankful for the relationship that we have.
Yeah. Yeah, dude, me too. I said it earlier, I'll say it again. I mean, you've inspired me along the way, and I still hold true to, I think, a lot of people will say, what would Jesus do? I'm just like, what would Sarah do? What would my sister Sarah do in this
Do not
situation?
inflate my ego like that. Stop it right
No,
now.
dude, that should be a segment on this motherfucker. It's just, what would Sarah do? That's it right
Just
there.
spitfire questions. Don't be like, honestly, it all comes down to like, not that, but like, what have I learned in therapy and how do I apply it to these difficult situations?
Yeah, hell yeah. No, I love it. But seriously, in all seriousness, I would say that that was definitely like the turning point in my life where things kind of started to shoot up, and I know in your experience too, like there was there was a lot of time where I
Did you
wasn't
mean to say shoot up or was that like a Freudian slip?
that was a slip. I
I'm
didn't mean
so sorry.
it. um I now you threw me off guard. In your experience, there was a lot of time where I wasn't, mentally, emotionally available, aware to know what you were kind of going through. So I guess, in a way, I'd like to throw kind of like that same question back at you. I mean, what was it for you in your life that made you feel that it's time to like grow? What was that moment? What was that point? What was it a certain experience? Like is it like a one day? Was it a 1 second kind of thing, or was it kind of like did it evolve over time and you just had a day where it was like I need to make a change, or my health's going to take over, or I'm going to snap and kill somebody? What
Eh,
was it?
Um, so I think the biggest thing for me was after I had the twins, I had I knew that postpartum depression kind of like crept in after my second born. So after the twins, I tried to like head it off and like I started going to therapy early and kind of got the help that I needed. But interestingly enough, as I dove deeper into that part, it was within that first year that I started to have these severe reactions to food that no doctors could help me. I didn't understand what was going on, like, it just felt like my body was failing, and that was my breaking point. I mean, it got to a point where, I would have done anything those first months. I was calling every specialist and trying to see every doctor that I possibly could to just figure out a way to figure it out, but, like, there was just nothing. It was a lot of symptom masking. Everybody kinda wanted to treat the symptoms, but nobody wanted to know what the root cause was, or nobody knew what it was, and nobody wanted to dig deep enough, and it was just a really frustrating time. And then I finally got to a point where I realized that I had pushed so hard that my body finally snapped. It finally was like, we've had enough. You have, you know, ignored what my body basically was tapping me on the shoulder since I was in my 20s, saying like, "Hey, something's going on," but I ignored it and ignored it and ignored it, never addressed a deeper issue. And then finally it was like, "Yep, now uh, you just can't handle anything anymore." And yeah, it was a huge time for me at that point. It was hard, but, thankfully, I got to a point where, I mean, those first few months, we talked about it. I got a diagnosis and, finally got, like, a game plan set up for next steps and where I needed to go, and, um, but, yeah, I feel like at that point, so much of, so much of my healing venture, just seemed that every step I took exposed other things. Does that make sense? Like,
Yeah.
there was this thing that was happening, but it was also exposing these deeper layers of all of this stuff. And I wonder with that because then I was like, okay, then I need to work on this, and then I need to work on this, and I need to work on this. And as I've gone through those layers, I mean, things have obviously improved, but I wonder on the other side, like through addiction, and recovery and all of the things that you've experienced, has healing looked like that for you? Like, has it exposed other things?
Yeah, yeah, I would say, a thousand, 100,000%. Because it's weird that I had it in my head for so long that, like, if you just take the drugs and alcohol away, like, that's the solution, like, I'm just gonna be, old Saint Luke, um, all of a sudden, just because I'm not doing those things, but, that's not the case, like, Luke the real version of Luke still exists, and I've masked what that looks like for so long, and I've learned all these old other behaviors from my addiction and alcoholism, and, not only did I have to, like, unlearn those, but I also had to, like, face things that I never unlearned from, like, childhood. Like, we talked earlier about me being the baby and using that to my advantage, and, and that was the case, I sobered up and there was just, like, all these, like, feelings and emotions that I haven't felt in so long, but I would still catch
Mm.
myself, like, manipulating situations, using, um, a poor attitude to make somebody feel bad to benefit me or something along those lines. So, like, yeah, I feel like, I don't know, I feel like I used a lot of the behaviors that I used when I was a kid when I first got sobered up. Like, I could manipulate situations. Um, I knew how to find ways to make people feel guilty, to make to benefit me, and I would still do it even when I was, quote unquote sober. And that's a lot of what the recovery process, and the program that I choose to work. That's kind of what it's about. Is there's only a step or two that even talks about alcohol or drugs. The rest is all about, finding a spiritual nature and facing who you are. And I have, a whole lot of character defects. And a lot of things that and I still, I am by no means I am by no means perfect. There's still shit that comes up where I'm like, "Who is that version of Luke? Why did that just happen?" You know?
Mhm.
There's days where I wake up and I'm just like, I'm pissed off or upset or whatever for absolutely no reason. Um, but I would think, peeling back those layers, um, that I guess become exposed when you quit masking them. Um, and that's what I did for so long is I got high and drank to mask these emotions that I didn't know how to handle. Um, so yeah, I still face those. I would say manipulation is a terrible one. I work in sales and it's very easy for me to become salesy in a normal conversation. Um, or if I want, my wife to do something, or if I want a friend to do something, I know how to like steer it to get what I want. And like, I try really hard. I have to pray, you know, to to the universe or God or whatever you want to call it, to be as honest as I can in certain situations. I've gone to counseling and marriage counseling and all these things where um I literally would pray in the parking lot before going in because I know that I could go in there and manipulate this to make, my wife look bad. Or even, yeah, if it's just one-on-one counseling, which I've done a ton of, where I could switch the narrative to make me look like I had no fault. And I'm super, super good at that, where I can either play the victim or play the good guy when in reality that's not the case. Um, so those are a lot of the flaws that I would say that I still work through, and that definitely, became very, very visible, as started my recovery process. Um,
Yeah. I think like I think it's good to acknowledge, you mentioned having multiple, rock bottoms. Like being able to look at healing not as like this linear, process. But it's good to acknowledge those things that have been exposed because healing, kind of takes you through different levels. I think that when I thought about healing, I didn't really think about that like it was going to be, three steps forward, one step back. You know what I mean? That's in my brain. It only made sense like with everything going on. Like these things are just going to continue to get better, but it doesn't work like that. You have all of these outside influences, family dynamics that play into those aspects of healing and relationships that get affected. So I mean, how it really looks is nonlinear and um, bouncing back and forth. So I think about that, and did you ever think like relationships through what you've grown through? What did you expect them to look like on the other side?
so, uh, what do you mean by that? Like relationships that I had prior to me getting my shit together? Um,
Yeah,
or
I mean, or just like in life in general. Like, I mean, how would you look at recovery or look at healing, I guess, and consider relationships in like our family, you know, before, during, and present?
ooh, that's a that's a good question. It's a weird answer I feel like that I have, because I feel like talking about recovery to people who either haven't recovered or haven't grown in a way like I feel like I have, um, it's a foreign conversation. There's no understanding there. I think you and I even talked one day where I used the analogy. It's like a war veteran talking about, you know, uh, the war in Iraq to a fireman. Um,
Mm,
it's hard to relate. So when it comes to
both
like,
both difficult experiences, both
yeah,
traumatic, but very different. Yeah.
of course. And so like when it comes to like, I mean, we'll start with our family. I mean, in my opinion, there is a lot more reason for our family, our immediate family, especially to have said, "Let bygones be bygones." When it comes to me, I gave most people in our family a whole lot of reason to give up faith and hope.
Mm.
Um, and I had to make a whole lot of amends, and there's something that I mean, I'll make for the rest of my life. I hope to anyway. But I think, I remember one time, our grandpa told me, he was like, "Luke," he was like, "You gotta stop drinking." I was like, "Yeah, grandpa, I've tried that for like 10 fucking years, that's not working." Um, So it's really just hard to relate, but I will say that, in my opinion, my relationships with family, have definitely gotten better, but it's gotten better because I've gotten better. There's there's family and there's friends and there's people who I thought I would be so much more close to at this point that I'm not, and it's, um, not a shot at them, it's just we're on different growth patterns. I
Mhm,
think the best thing that anybody did for me in our family was the time where people didn't necessarily give up on me, but they stopped putting up with my shit. And I think I'm at a point where I've grown enough, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually where I think there's some people in our family that also need to do some growing. And I remember that best thing that I remember dad told me. He was like, I'm not picking you up from rehab until you finish. And I was like, oh, damn it. You're done babying me all of a sudden. But that's when I got better. Honestly. That's when I got better. When Justine told me, you got to go. I tried to get back in the apartment and I tried to get a key, and the people at the front desk said that they were calling the police. I was like, oh, son of a bitch.
mm,
But it was the best thing that ever happened to me. So my relationships, all that to say that like my relationships with family, in my mind, I wish a lot of them were different. Um, but I also think that a lot of people in our family wish their relationship with me was different for a long time. So
mm,
I think it's fair to say that everybody kind of grows on their own time, and I pray that those relationships can be great one day. And I'm so grateful you had every right in the world to you know um brush me off, and now we're starting a podcast talking about growth and spirituality. So there's always hope. I'm grateful for that relationship, and I don't know, man. I It's hard to talk about those things on here publicly without it feeling like we're taking shots, because I don't think the point of what we're doing, but I also think it's a very, very important to talk about. So on that note, I mean, how would you feel, or how do you think your relationships were and are, with
no, I'm not gonna talk about that publicly.
gotcha. Sending this in a group text to the family right
Yeah, I
now.
actually just I got on this podcast so I could record you doing that.
Oh man.
Um, listen, I mean, I'm more than anything, for a long time, I did not believe that people could change. And I looked at people like once people show you who they are, believe them. You know what I mean? So for me, like ending relationships in my life was never a big deal. Up until dad got sober, and you got sober. And then it was the first time in my life that I was like, okay, people can change. If they want to put in the work, they can. And I think that that has influenced my relationships in a manner of uh I also I in my life, I pray deeply, I for them, for their own growth and their own journey, and to get help and do what you did, do what I did. I wasn't I was checking the boxes of what I was supposed to be doing, but I also wasn't I wasn't a great person. I've made my mistakes. I can't sit here on this podcast and be like, I've never screwed up. Like I'm sure that I have wronged people all along the way as well. There are things that I probably have said that I didn't mean, and you know, try and be better. Uh but ultimately, I think that it takes I listened to a sermon once. One of our pastors was talking about it only takes one person to forgive, right? But it does
Mm.
take two to rectify, the relationship, to rebuild it, to put in the efforts for it to get better. And I stand by that. There are people that have wronged me that'll probably never apologize for the things that they've said or done or how they've made me feel. Um, and I have to forgive them anyways. And segueing from that, in my mind, I also am telling myself that with that forgiveness, I have to be okay with boundaries, which have always been difficult for me. And part of my healing process has been stepping away when a situation is not healthy, and being okay that boundaries aren't always going to make everybody happy. And for a long time, I was a people pleaser and I wanted to keep the peace and do all, make everybody happy all the time. But that wasn't doing myself any justice because I wasn't setting boundaries in anything in my professional life, in my personal life, in my family. And so getting to a point of that has helped me, I think, focus on the relationships that um I don't want to say that matter, but that are more deeply rooted and connected, stepping away from things that have been hard.
Sure.
So,
And you
yeah.
being a mother of four can also use those trials and tribulations and a different kind of family dynamic and a view and all these things um and present that to your own children in a way where it doesn't, you're trying to I think I think we talked about it because I'm obviously expecting my first daughter. Um, but I think the goal of being a mother or father is just to traumatize our children less and in different ways than our parents did us, you know?
Oh, I thought you were gonna say just enough so that they're funny.
Yeah, well, that too, a little bit. But no, just in different ways, and I think that these things that you're talking about with like, our family and the dynamic and all those things, like completely correlate with the growth. That you're trying to show because it's not just for you at this point, it is for your children. And I think that's again another beautiful thing that I admire and I try to take from you is the boundaries that you're talking about. Like, well, I think you and I are both people pleasers. I think that we say yes when we mean no a lot. Um, and I just uh, it's really cool to see you see that how much that you've worked on those things because it's correlated and to me being able to be like no, like no means no, no doesn't mean yes, like, you know what I mean, like it's I didn't know how to do that until I watched you do it, so I'm so grateful for that too.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, the goal is that that was the big mind
Mind shit.
shift.
Big old dookie
My
in your
brain's
mind.
fried Monday night. Um,
Remix.
with the girls is that sorry, I was just thinking about launching the podcast and being hashtag mind shit. I'm somewhere else now.
Oh shit.
What? I don't know, brother. Honestly, I think one of the questions that I kind of want to land on here is a twofold. The first of it being, what is a part of yourself that you've gotten back now that you thought was gone forever? And then
Mm.
also I kind of want to I want to ruminate a little bit on everything that we've talked about and I want you to think of what you would tell somebody that's still kind of stuck in survival mode right now. So, my
Ooh.
my twofold question is what have you gained back for yourself? And then also what would you want to tell somebody in the thick of whatever, addiction, parenthood, thick family dynamics, boundary setting, whatever. Tell me, hit me.
All right. Um, something I I would say I got back was the capability to love and to be loved. I
Mm,
uh I don't think I was capable of that in my addiction.
you just gave me goosebumps.
I mean that's as true and sincere as I can get. I don't yeah, I would definitely say that's the biggest thing because I mean materialistically like I didn't have shit, so there was nothing to give back. I mean the only thing I could give
You
back was
sold an old pawn shop.
yeah, the only thing I could give back was other people's shit. Um, so materialistically, nothing, and when it comes to, like, um, things that truly mean something, I mean, that's definitely the number one. I didn't feel worthy of having love, and I did not know how to love anybody, or anything. Uh, I was very selfish and self-centered, and, the capability to love somebody or something else outside of me was just not there, so that's definitely the thing I got back, and I would say for anybody struggling, with any of those things, I mean, my experience, deals a lot with addiction, of course, and alcoholism and all those things, but, um, I'm definitely mentally fucking screwed, so, I have a whole lot of mental health issues, and, so anybody going through anything that's tough, that's an obstacle that you don't really see a way out, all I can say is that there is, and, asking for help is a hard, hard thing to do. Um, I was, I was kind of forced into asking for help, and that's okay too. But if you're in a position right now where it's, on your mind and you would really like to make a move, reach out, or reach out to us. That's part of what this podcast is about. Um, reach out to somebody. Say, hey, like I am struggling bad, and I really want to make a change, and somebody out there will help you, I can guarantee it, because a lot of people did it for me when I didn't think I deserved it.
Yeah, I think it was you that told me at one point that, you asked me if somebody came to me and asked me for the things that, I needed or whatever, that so many people love to be of service to others.
Yep.
And, you said that, and, I've really taken that into account. Like, if somebody else was asking me for what I need, I would be there in a heartbeat. So I think giving other people the opportunity to be that person for you, is kind of a beautiful thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, don't rob somebody the opportunity of being of service.
Yeah, that's I knew there was a
Yeah.
quote.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, well, I don't like stealing your questions, but I think those questions really, uh, were very, very meaningful and a great, great way to kinda end our first podcast. So I wanna hear from you. You probably, since you had those questions on deck, probably kinda already know the answer, but I would like to hear from you um, what you would think that you got back through this, mental health and chronic illness recovery, and, uh, and what would you like to tell somebody who's struggling with whatever the fuck?
Um, the part of me, I think that I got back that I think was gone forever. I was forced to grow up really fast when I was little. I feel like, most of my life I kind of felt like I was like the glue. And I really had to like take care of everybody when I didn't necessarily have the resources to take care of everyone. And so, as I've gotten older, I've allowed myself a little bit more of like a childhood wonder. I take life very seriously, you know. Uh, it's almost like this huge job interview every single day, and if I'm not nailing it, then I'm failing it, obviously. So, for
Damn.
me, I'm trying to get back to a place of just like, uh, a little more childhood, a little more peace. I see the things, my kids, they ask deep questions, and before I ever even get the chance to answer them, they're on to the next thing because it doesn't even matter. So I want to hold on to that. And then if I was talking to a fellow mom in the thick of young kids or somebody dealing with chronic illness, a diagnosis that, or not a diagnosis and trying to figure out like what the hell to do next, um, keep pushing. Uh, it's easy for me to say, because I know that when I went through it, if somebody would told me that, I would have been like, "Yeah, I am doing that. I'm pushing through it, but, like, somebody help me for the love of God." But, there comes a time when you look back and 6 months goes by, and then a year goes by, and you're like, "Wow," you know? I know, again, when you're in the heaviness of a season, easier said than done, but coming through on the other side, gives you a good place to have a lot of reflection. So don't forget where you've been and don't forget where you're going.
Mm, perfect. Chef's kiss.
Well, week 1 in the books, brother.
I love it.
Let's
I
send them
love it.
off.
Let's send them off. All right. Well, remember, everybody, life's hard, but it is definitely a little easier when you have someone to text. Are you seeing this shit? Um, it's always a very beneficial thing when you have a brother, sister, best friend to go through this shit with. And that's what Sarah is for me, and I try to be for her.
Yeah, and, hopefully building an audience, Luke and I will be your emotional support siblings as well. And we just appreciate, whoever wanted to tune in, either hiding in your car for an extra hour or cleaning your house for the third time today, being neurotic. So we just ask everybody to either send this podcast to somebody that you think might enjoy it. Tune in next week. Follow us on the socials. We are on, YouTube and TikTok, Spotify for emotional support siblings. You can email us at emotionalsupportsibs@gmail.com if you've got an opinion or something, you want to talk about. We're here for you. And next week we're back to talk about the unwritten rules of our family. Rules and roles.
RU and RO.
Yes.
Rolls. Rules. All right.
Until next time.
All right.